One thing that I think I'm hearing in a lot of your responses, which is not surprising since you run the Center for Affective Neuroscience, Development, Learning, and Education, is the connection you keep making with feeling and the feelings that people have. How do you think that it's actually connecting dots, for people as they're wrestling with the ideas and the feelings, right? Or their own learning?
I mean, I think in the brain, we don't see a clear separation between emotion and cognition. We do not see cognitive areas of brain and emotional areas of brain. We see big networks that are shifting according to, their dynamics and their properties and what they're sort of, set up to think like at a particular time, based on salience, based on what seems to matter to the person, which of course is a cognitive realization of what matters, but the matters is also evaluative and sort of subjective, so it's affective, right? All thinking is at once subjective, affective, and cognitive, always. And as scientists, also coming out of a sort of Descartesian, philosophical tradition in the West, right? We have sort of tried to pull those aspects of thinking apart, which is a legitimate thing to do in science. In science, we carve the world up, right?
Yeah.
In order to recognize that there are particular kinds of pieces in there. But that does not mean, it does not follow that these things now work independently or are actually different things. What it means is they could be different dimensions of the same thing. And what we've done systematically in the learning sciences, which grow out of the cognitive sciences, right, which are even named cognitive sciences, is we have held the affective component constant, the cultural component constant, right? This is the so-called weird problem that scientists started writing about, some years ago, where like white, educated, I can't remember what it all stands for, but it's like all the people who really were the participants in these early experiments and even current experiments that are discovering these very basic capacities of the mind, like working memory and things like that, have come from, we're holding the cultural differences constant. If you had done those experiments with people from indigenous Mayan villages, it would look really different. And you know what I mean? And it does look really different.
I know what you mean. Weird as an acronym is what you're saying.
It's weird as
Western,
an acronym, which stands for a bunch of
Western educated,
educated, blah, 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 blah.
Industrial, I think rich and
industrial, rich and
democratic.
Or something.
There you go. Democratic. There's the D.
Right. Yeah, and even more than that, they tend to be college sophomores who need psychology credit to pass their test, right? It's just like very, very narrow group of people. And if you show up to a working memory experiment and your dog died that morning, they're going to send you home to come back another day when you're more inclined to do it, right? That is actually taking the variation that really exists in the world out of the science in order to be able to purify the construct that you want to uncover. That's fine. But the problem is the scientists have sort of deluded themselves into believing that makes this thing a thing that is independent from the context in which it happens. And that is wrong. And it also has led to, and is continuing to lead to, some serious sort of tension in the education field between evidence-based approaches and learning sciences on the one hand, and things like identity and affective experience and cultural appropriateness on the other hand. And they are right now, separate and opposing conversations. And the way we need to integrate them is to notice that the science has, by design, held these things constant. That doesn't mean that those things aren't there. It means that you have held them constant so that the variability that you could attribute to them is not messing with the effect that you're trying to uncover. And it doesn't mean that you don't need to know this stuff and leverage these mechanisms, because that is basic to your ability to manage yourself in the modern industrialized world.